Trump's Vice President on a high-stakes Bharat visit. Vance and family visit the iconic Akshardham. Trade tariffs and a Taj Mahal tour on the agenda. Crucial Modi-Vance bilateral set to define ties. India-US relations in global spotlight. What is at stake for Washington and New Delhi? Trump's Vice President in India. That is our top focus on 5 Live.
So Trump, tariff and Taj Mahal. Vice President J.D. Vance is already here, and look at that grand reception at the Palam Technical Area in Delhi. So just as he came out of the aircraft, there was this Tri-Services Guard of Honor. There was a Union Minister, Ashwini Vaishnav, Minister for Railways, Information and Broadcasting, waiting for him. A small cultural display, and then they headed straight to the Swaminarayan Akshardham temple. And now we'll be, in about an hour and a half from now, we'll be going to meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi for that dinner at the 7 Lok Kalyan Marg. We get you all details of the significance of the official leg of the visit. Then, of course, he flies off to Jaipur and then subsequently Agra. That's the personal leg of the visit. But what does this indicate about India-US relations, the timing, and of course, the Prime Minister's visit to Saudi Arabia tomorrow? I'm Gaurav Sawant. Let's get started. So in just about an hour and a half from now, US Vice President J.D. Vance is to meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Tariff talks on the cards, India-US trade deal, regional security, global scenario. All of that, we are told, well likely to be on the agenda. This is the first in-person trade talks here. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will then host a dinner for J.D. Vance and the US Second Lady Usha Chinikuri Vance after talks with the US Vice President. This is J.D. Vance's first visit to India, comes weeks after US President Donald Trump imposed and then posed sweeping tariff regime against 60 countries across the world, including India. New Delhi and Washington, of course, are holding negotiations to seal a PTA, or the first phase of the bilateral trade agreement that's expected to address a variety of issues, including tariff and market access. Images that you see on your television screen, one of Prime Minister Narendra Modi on a visit. The second image that you see, that's an image of the Prime Minister at the International Media Center. The second image that you see is of the Vances at the Swaminarayan Akshardham temple. So they landed in Delhi and headed straight to the Swaminarayan Akshardham temple. I want to bring in my colleague Shivani Sharma for more. She's standing by outside the Prime Minister's residence at 7 Lok Kalyan Marg. So Shivani, quite a packed day for J.D. Vance. There's the cultural aspect of the visit, and then there is the official leg of the visit and his interaction with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. What's the agenda?
Gaurav, indeed, this is a combination of a cultural and an official visit by the United States Vice President J.D. Vance along with his family, 3 young kids. And this happens to be his first visit to India after taking over as the US Vice President. While we can say that Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be meeting him for the second time because, Prime Minister Narendra Modi was in USA to congratulate President Donald Trump, and that time also he had met the US Vice President then. So in a way, this will be their second formal meeting after he took over as the Vice President. But indeed, this is a very crucial, significant meeting in terms of the tariff pact, the trade agreement that India is working on since past few weeks, as we see the tariff war with a number of countries, but India is working silently and negotiating with the United States of America. That's what we've heard from President Trump also, that India has been rewarded like many other countries for a exemption for next 90 days from the high tariffs. And yes, very soon we can say that this trade agreement will be finalized. But yes, apart from the trade tariff, there are many other issues. The strengthening of defense ties with America, the diplomatic ties and the way the family, the Vance's family is traveling to India. They've picked very beautiful, magnificent, significant places where they'll be visiting. After the Swaminarayan temple, they will be today meeting Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Then they'll be heading to Jaipur. They will be witnessing the majestic palaces of Jaipur. They will be addressing the gathering out there, and then Agra's Taj Mahal will be their next
Stay
stop.
with me, Shivani. Of course, for the benefit of our viewers, the Prime Minister not only met J.D. Vance in the United States of America. Remember, India was quick off the block just after Trump's swearing in. Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited the United States of America. And it's very important to remain engaged with the new administration. In 2017, when Donald Trump came in the first time, the thinking in the Indian establishment is do not waste time. It's usually 6 months to a year when you start engaging with the new administration and they start understanding you, you start understanding them. So India is very quick off the block. Remain engaged with the Democrats and with the Republicans. When the new administration comes in, remain engaged quickly so that there's no loss of time. So the Prime Minister met Donald Trump. He met J.D. Vance. He also met J.D. Vance in Paris when the Prime Minister was there for the AI summit that India co-hosted. And again, J.D. Vance was there with his family. There was a very, there were several toys that the Prime Minister gifted to those young children, toys that are made in India. Again, while it's symbolic, there's also a signal that's being sent out there. J.D. Vance, as Vice President of India, this is his first visit. The Vance family visited the Swaminarayan Akshardham temple. They saw images, and we'll get you those images. Yeah, that's that image on your television screen, that iconic image, the children dressed in kurta pajama, ethnic Indian wear. Vance and family were welcomed with garlands at the Swaminarayan Akshardham temple. J.D. Vance also, when he landed in Delhi, there was a Tri-Services Guard of Honor at the Palam technical area of the Delhi airport. The Vice President is on a 4-day visit to India. There's a bilateral talk with the Prime Minister, discussion with the Prime Minister in just about an hour and a half from now. And then the US Vice President will fly off to Jaipur. They're staying at the Rambagh Palace Hotel. That's the used to be the official house of the king of Jaipur. That's a hotel now. He will address the Rajasthan International Center. Then they fly off to Agra, and then on the 24th they fly back to the United States of America.
जी देखिए, पूरा परिवार जो था यहाँ पे मान लीजिए लगभग 1 घंटे तक जितने का समय बिताया, 55 मिनट्स अप्रॉक्स। तो 1 घंटे की ये जो इनका अनुभव अंदर रहा वो बहुत ही अविस्मरणीय था। गर्भगृह में भगवान स्वामीनारायण की मूर्ति ऐसे मनोहर दर्शन करके उन्होंने वहाँ पे विश्व शांति के लिए और सभी के बीच में सुहृद भाव और संवादिता बनी रहे, उसके लिए उन्होंने प्रार्थना की। और ओवरऑल देखा जाए तो वो बहुत ही प्रभावित हुए आज अक्षरधाम के दर्शन करके।
I have Ambassador Ashok Sajjanhar joining me on this broadcast. Ambassador Sajjanhar keeps a hawk eye on developments, especially when it comes to India-America, India-Europe. Ambassador Sajjanhar, J.D. Vance visit, how would you look at it? One, the timing of the visit. Two, the official and the personal leg of the visit, sir. Ambassador, I think you're on mute. Can I request you to unmute yourself?
Yes,
on,
I'm unmuted now.
Perfect.
Yeah. My apologies. My apologies, Gaurav. So what I was saying is that it's a very important visit by Vice President J.D. Vance, I think, for maybe 2 major reasons. One is that he is not like a normal vice president. He has the ear of President Trump. He has the confidence of President Trump. We have seen this over the last, 100-odd days because he has been sent out to important missions in different parts of the world. So President Trump listens to him. So in fact, the conversations and the deliberations that Vice President Vance is going to have in India, and also the impressions that he is able to garner during his visit and what he takes back to the United States, that is going to be significant. The second point, Gaurav, that you made is in terms of the timing of the visit. And I think that is very important. You alluded to it yourself. Prime Minister Modi, let's say in 2017, his first visit to the US was in June of 2017. When President Joe Biden came to power, his first visit was in September of 2021. This time it was within 4 weeks. So what India is doing is acting proactively and also preemptively, so that we are able to take a head start. We sort of, hit the ground running. And that is exactly what has happened. We agreed between the two leaders that we will have a bilateral trade agreement. Mind you, this is not a
Yes.
free trade agreement. It's a bilateral trade agreement. It's a limited trade agreement. And the first tranche of that BTA will be decided in September or October this fall, when we have the visit of President Trump to India. And I think we
How
are
does one
working.
ensure a win-win? Because, many say that in his first Trump tenure, perhaps President Trump would have been a little gentler in his approach. In his second term, he's, painted the entire world in one brush with one brush. But of course, the percentage of tariffs has been very different, suspended for 90 days. But does he also want to remain engaged with India as extensively as India wants to remain engaged with the United States? Will there be concessions that India seeks in terms of, we want to protect our agriculture, we want to protect our dairy, at the same time we want a bilateral trade agreement? How does this work out, those nuts and bolts? Will they understand what are, absolute red lines for Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't have the slightest doubt, because, that will be taking place at the technical level. And that is what I was about to say. We had the visit of our Commerce Industry Minister Piyush Goyal to the United States. Right now, we have the visit of our Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. She is in Washington, D.C. We have our Commerce Secretary also, who is in Washington, D.C. So I think they are going to discuss all these nitty-gritty and the nuts and bolt issues. And I think there are certain red lines. While India will be willing to accommodate, because our stance is of accommodation, not of confrontation. And I think
Yes.
while we will be willing to accommodate what the United States wants to an extent by increasing our imports of LNG, of oil, of defense equipment that we need, of certain, we, even on the 1st of February, when we had our budget, we brought
Yes.
down the tariffs on Harley Davidson, brought down on Tesla, EVs, brought down on, what is known as the Google tax, even as far as the tariff on the bourbon whiskey is concerned. It was brought down on the same day that Prime Minister Modi met President Trump, that is 13th February. So I think India has shown its willingness that we are willing to accommodate your concerns. As far as the trade surplus is concerned, we will walk a few steps in bringing that down. But as far as our red lines are concerned on some of the agricultural areas and some of the MSMEs, there I don't think there is going to be any go. The last point, Gaurav, that I'll make here is that
Go on, sir.
India also wants to use this challenge as an opportunity to bring down our tariffs so that we can integrate better with the global economic world and become part of the global value chains and the global supply chains.
That's a very significant point you make, and this has been Prime Minister Narendra Modi's key buzzword since 2014. Aapada mein avsar, looking for an opportunity in adversity. And I want to bring in India Today's Foreign Affairs editor Geeta Mohan, joining us for more on this. Geeta, whether it's the External Affairs Ministry, the Finance Ministry, the Commerce Ministry, India is working as a team to ensure it's a win-win for both. But what are some of those red lines or niggles that the two sides are trying their best to ensure they're able to tide over and by fall?
Well, Gaurav, to begin with, India and the United States of America, particularly the Indian administration, had started engaging Trump administration as soon as they had won the elections. You saw Dr. Jaishankar go meet with the senior staff, senior officers who had not even taken oath by then, and oath of office, and then saw him at the oath taking as well. The engagement had begun. There is a unique relationship that India and the US in terms of the leadership shares, which is between Prime Minister Modi and President Donald Trump. But make no mistake, there has been India was caught, quite by surprise, as was the world when it came to unilateral announcements and decisions by the Trump administration.
Okay.
These tariffs are unilateral decisions. So, what India is looking at is ensuring, like Sir was just saying, that agriculture is where we require a carve out. We are looking at concluding a BTA as soon as possible, as soon as the fall of this year. Which is
Okay.
a very tall ask because both countries have been trying to get a trade agreement between the two, and haven't really been able to. And it's been administrations after administration, including the first term of Donald Trump. So there are areas, agriculture particularly so, but then this is also not
Okay.
not a secret that India requires tariff reforms, and maybe the country will start looking at how to reform its tariff structure.
Geeta, many thanks for joining me. Ambassador Sajjanhar, many thanks for joining me on this discussion. Now, I want to cut across to India's former ambassador to the United States of America, Ambassador Taranjeet Singh Sandhu. Sir, as always, welcome on India Today. How do you view Vice President J.D. Vance's visit to India, the Tri-Services Guard of Honor, Ashwini Vaishnav, Union Cabinet Minister there to receive him, and of course, his meeting with Prime Minister later this evening, sir?
Hi, Gaurav. It's again nice to be with you. J.D. Vance is a rising star as far as the Republican Party is concerned. And I'm sure you are well aware that he's still relatively young and is the vice president. So this is a significant visit. I think the fact that he is coming right in the beginning of the tenure is important, and he'll have a significant meeting with Prime Minister, and the family is also going to go to some of the other interesting places in India. So the significance of J.D. Vance is to be remembered that he got elected as a senator in 22. And actually, if you go into his background, the way he has come up, the tough life he has led, and finally, he ended up in Yale, where he met his wife, Usha. So it's a very significant story there.
It indeed is. It indeed is. And her contribution in his life, he's recounted that the direction he got, the fact that he was a part of the US Marine Corps, he's done tours of duty, of course, wore a military journalist hat in combat. I want to understand from you your understanding of J.D. Vance, Usha Chilikuri Vance, your interactions, and how this is the relationship. This is actually India also investing in future leadership of the United States of America, Ambassador?
Absolutely. And I recall J.D. Vance from Ohio, where as a young senator he had come in. And the very fact that now he's the vice president speaks for itself. Now, the influence of Usha Vance is very significant. In fact, go to Netflix and watch the movie based on his bestseller. That very clearly indicates how impactful Usha Vance has been in his life. He has, in fact, acknowledged it so many occasions. And so it's a combination. And I'm sure all the decisions that are taken. And as far as Vance is concerned, I think, democratic politics you can never predict. But as far as the Republican Party establishment is concerned, keep in mind he's the vice president, and we see him active as far as all the interactions are concerned. And he has an opinion which he shares quite openly.
What are his impressions of India that you can share with us? I mean, of course, he's married to somebody from India, and we've seen him, celebrate festivals of our country, the entire family gathering together on Deepavali. But does that have an impact when there is a relationship between two countries? When President Trump's administration tries for America first, Prime Minister Narendra Modi tries for India first, and you have taken that relationship forward as India's ambassador to the United States of America. Do these personal relationships help tide over niggles and problems that may arise?
Of course they do. And you know that he met right at the start of his tenure. He met Prime Minister in Paris, and you already see him here. And as far as Indian Americans are concerned, he has a very good relationship. You know, in Ohio, the Indian Americans are quite a dominant presence. In fact, I know from the personal thing, because my father and mother both studied in Ohio State University, where Vice President Vance has also gone. So Indian Americans already have a good relationship with him. And then you have mentioned about Usha, and you have seen him very respectful for Indian customs. And even if you read his book, I think he is quite open. So therefore, even here, you are showing the pictures. What was the first place he visited? I think the point
Akshardham
definitely has gone home. But what is important? The important part here is that, look, the Prime Minister is very, very smart at the diplomacy part. And here is an important input giver in the United States political administration. And you have him here, and people here, Indians anyway are always very welcoming. Look at the visit of 2020 Feb, when President Trump came here and to Ahmedabad. I can tell you that any Republican senator and congressman I spoke at that time, just before the COVID hit, President Trump had already spoken about it. Also, this time when Prime Minister Modi was there, that's one of the things he remembered, 140,000 people coming and welcoming him.
Oh, absolutely, sir. In fact, I covered both Namaste Trump at Ahmedabad and Howdy Modi at Houston, Texas at the NRG Stadium. The energy there had to be seen, and I'm sure political leaders keep that in mind. But when it comes to the comprehensive strategic partnership between America and India, both the countries need each other. But is this BTA? One, it's an opportunity, but two, can it also lead to problems? Is it leading to problems, or will the two sides be willing to accommodate each other?
So see, Gaurav, any relationship has complications. Even our relationships at home have complications. They have to be tackled. So during Trump 1, there were issues, but they were tackled. During Trump 2, there are lots of issues. We are not talking just about United States and India. There is a worldwide issue of trade that is coming up. But if you look at the light within that, I think the Indian aspect, essentially the balance, will be much more easier achieved than many other complications. But you touched a very important point. That is the strategic relationship. Look, I think even a child can see that as the time is progressing, you are seeing some of the powers that are not that friendly to United States are already testing it. So as we move ahead, be a bit patient. I think this strategic relationship is only bound to go deeper, and it will flower more. I will only point to the Indo-Pacific strategy, which came out towards the end of Trump 1. If you look at it, you can see the important role which India was to play in his thinking. And I'm sure in this coming days, that will play a significant aspect in settlement of what you are looking at, some of the problems.
So that's a very significant point. If I were to read between the lines, it's a very, very major point that you're making here. This year, India is also hosting the Quad Summit, which we were to hold last year in the United the States of America. Wanted President Biden to host it as his farewell, Quad. But this year, when Quad Summit happens in India, President Trump will be here. How would you view the Indo-Pacific strategy moving forward? Tonight at the dinner table or before that, will Quad be a very important aspect of discussion?
Absolutely. A Quad will be. And if you remember, during Trump's first presidency, Quad was given a huge lift. And President Trump and his team at National Security Council at that time were very significantly invested. And here I may point out, incidentally, at end of his presidency, President Trump gave a highest award to all the 4 Quad leaders. And I had received it on behalf of Prime Minister Modi then. So Quad is a significant aspect. And when President Trump comes here, I'm sure you will see, and you can certainly be confident that the present establishment here will make it a memorable visit for President Trump.
Perhaps, I mean, his last visit to India was extremely significant in Ahmedabad, Gujarat, and he's talked about it. And you also had a role to play in it in ensuring that he does come to India at a time when he seemed a little skeptical initially, and I'd love you to share that story. But I also want you to weigh in on the tariffs America has imposed on, one, China, 245% in instances, and on countries that are seen as very close to China, or China may use their ports to export to the United States of America. So there's a method in the madness in what Donald Trump appears to be doing, Ambassador.
Well, I don't want to be giving commentary on what's happening. You know that politics is complicated and international politics is certainly complicated. This is not the last word. And that's why I said just be patient and see how the negotiations proceed worldwide. I'm confident that India-US relationship is bound to deepen, and certainly some of the other aspects will play an important role. And here is an opportunity. There is no doubt that any country can't go it all alone. So there are significant aspects, and we have the international production system today in which you require reliable supply chains. And I do know that the United States certainly regards India as a reliable partner.
China has been, issuing, if I may, threats as some country view it, or warnings as some others may perceive it to be, that in case they want to do deals which adversely impact China's interests, there will be either consequences or countermeasures. How would you view that, sir?
So I think many of the countries around know the past conduct, and so it's no secret. But again, we have China as our neighbor, and I'm sure the current government is well aware of tackling China because it has to. But that also points to, look, we never invited China to come to our border. They came on their own, and do keep that in mind. And therefore, I think it's very significant that the countries which have a similar attitude need to cooperate. And that is the significance also, especially the strategic significance of United States-India partnership.
And that's the question I wanted to come to, Ambassador. The strategic bilateral cooperation, India is also looking at, when you talk about trust in terms of high-end critical technology coming to India, co-production, co-development. Are we moving beyond words? When you were our ambassador to the United States, there was a lot of push to ensure ISET results in technologies being manufactured in India, resulting in greater manufacture in India. Do you see that progressing the way it was envisaged?
Look, there's a new understanding which had come out. They are calling it trust. But essentially, the technology partnership is going to be important because India has the technology expertise, US has that, and do keep in mind that India has a very young population in an aging world. We have 50% of our population is 26 years and below. Now, it's true that things are moving towards AI, but keep in mind that AI also requires trained manpower. And where are you going to get that? You do need to feed in. That's only when AI will start giving you results. So India is going to be a significant player. And I'm sure this partnership, what is being called now as trust, is going to deepen more.
Ambassador Taranjeet Sandhu for joining me here on this India Today special broadcast. Many thanks. In about an hour from now, the US Vice President will be at the 7 Lok Kalyan Marg for his interaction with Prime Minister Narendra Modi and then that official dinner. So in a week of high-level diplomacy, US Vice President JD Vance is in India. There's growing strategic partnership between the two countries. The ties are being deepened. Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman is in the United States of America. Reciprocal tariffs. Now, the threat, of course, is just 90 days away. But by fall, we are told a bilateral trade agreement, at least phase 1 of the BTA, will be in position. And both the countries are pushing forward for that breakthrough. There's an ambitious $500 billion target by 2030. Is that achievable? Siddharth Zarabi and the Business Today team get us this report.
The arrival of JD Vance in India on Monday morning kicks off a week of unprecedented pace in India-US trade talks. The US Vice President, a first-time visitor to the country of his wife's origin, has an itinerary packed with official meetings and personal time in Delhi, Agra and Jaipur. As the clock ticks on the 90-day extension in Trump's reciprocal tariffs, Vance will meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi, with the two expected to review progress made on the bilateral agenda outlined in February when Prime Minister Modi met President Donald Trump in Washington. Meanwhile, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman is on a 5-day trip to the US. Though the minister is in the US for the spring meetings of the IMF, the World Bank and other multilateral engagements, bilateral talks with the US for a trade deal tops her agenda.
We are one of the countries which actively engaged with the new administration in the United States of America to see how best we can get a bilateral trade agreement done. Equally, the priority that we gave to engage with the government here is more than obviously seen with Prime Minister himself visiting the United States in February. You've had the Commerce and Trade Minister come. I've come here because I also have the IMF and World Bank meeting, but I'm scheduled to meet the Treasury Secretary, my counterpart here. So the keenness with which we are engaging with the US administration, even as I talk, I think the Vice President of the United States of America is in India. He will be engaging with the Prime Minister hopefully this evening or tomorrow.
There have been several top-level India-US engagements in the past 3 months, beginning with the Prime Minister's visit to the US in second week of February. This was followed by the Commerce Minister visiting US and then a reciprocal visit by the US Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, on 16th of March. A US trade delegation led by Assistant USTR Brendan Lynch was in India for 5 days in March. The latest are the visits of Finance Minister Sitharaman to the US and Vice President J.D. Vance to India. According to reports, India's chief negotiator for the deal, Rajesh Agarwal, will make a 3-day trip to the United States starting Wednesday. Meanwhile, there are reports that India and the US have finalized the terms of reference for the trade deal. This covers 19 chapters including tariffs, goods, non-tariff barriers, customs, facilitation, rules of origin and regulatory issues. The team led by Rajesh Agarwal will iron out differences on certain issues before formally launching negotiations for the proposed Indo-US Trade Pact.
The long and short of engaging with the US is not just for tariff-related, this reciprocal tariff-related matter, but in the interest of keeping an agreement in mind and in the interest of our largest trading partner with whom we need to have an agreement, we are working in order that by fall this year, we should at least have the first phase of the agreement signed.
The US remained India's largest trading partner for the 4th straight year, according to trade figures released on 15th of April. The two countries have agreed on trade hitting $500 billion in the next 5 years. The enhanced dialogue between India and US also comes at a time when trade and diplomatic tensions between China and the US have ratcheted to an all-time high. Not only do the bilateral talks focus on manufacturing opportunities in India, but also the status of India as an important strategic ally in combating the rising influence of China in the Indo-Pacific region. Bureau Report, Business Today Television.
And Beijing is warning of retaliatory actions if any country does a deal with the United States of America that's detrimental to Chinese interests. China has warned US bargaining with a tiger for its skin. China says, we urge countries to resist US trade coercion. China says US unilaterally bullying and this violates the economic platform that's in place. China says it's a violation of WTO guidelines and directives. So the Ministry of Commerce in China has called for countries to resist US trade coercion after a report said that Washington DC had asked them to curb economic ties with China in exchange for tariff relief. China has warned it will firmly oppose and retaliate against any attempts by other countries to trade away Chinese interests, following reports that the US is putting pressure on trading partners to limit trade with Beijing in exchange for tariff exemptions. Clearly an indication that Europe holds a major part of the key here. America is trying to get the European countries back in their fold, ensuring they don't kowtow to Beijing. In a statement published on Monday, a spokesperson for China's Ministry of Commerce said Washington DC was using reciprocity as a pretext to impose unilateral economic pressure, calling it unilateral bullying that violates international norms and economic hegemony under the cloak of fairness. China says, and I quote, trying to trade away others' interests for temporary gains is like bargaining with a tiger for its skin. It will only backfire, unquote. That's a statement that's come out from the Chinese Ministry of Commerce. The Commerce Ministry of China has warned any deals made by foreign governments at the expense of Chinese interests would not be tolerated. And this, in a way, is a very clear indication that Donald Trump perhaps has achieved a part of what he sought to achieve. In this world right now, as analysts argue, this is a war where US is trying to protect its turf, China is trying to protect its turf, or perhaps when the two giants fight, it's the grass that's getting trampled. India clearly, as one of the analysts was telling me, does not want to be the grass in this situation. Neither would other countries, and we'll be tracking that story very, very closely. How will Europe react is a story to watch out for. we get you this disturbing story from Bengaluru in Karnataka, where an Indian Air Force wing commander and his wife, a squad leader in the Indian Air Force, working with the Defense Research and Development Organization. The officer was attacked on their way to the airport. This happened early this morning, around 6:30 this morning. Now, the officer put out a video of the assault and his condition after the attack, bleeding profusely from the face, from the head. He'd been attacked with a sharp object. Was it a case of road rage? Was it something more than that? He says while on their way to the airport, a two-wheeler overtook them and then stopped in the middle of the road. One man got off. He was still wearing a helmet, and he attacked the officer with a sharp object, perhaps the key or a key chain. The officer was bleeding from his head, from his face, and then when the officer came out of his automobile, from his jeep, and tried to push that man away, the man picked up a rock, according to the officer, and repeatedly hit him on his head with that rock. When the officer sought help, the locals, actually, the elderly told this attacker to move away, but the others attacked or helped the attacker target the officer. He had a DRDO sticker on his vehicle, this Indian Air Force officer, a wing commander in the Indian Air Force, and the attacker kept speaking in Kannada, saying something to the effect that you people from DRDO, and then switched language, and then the officer says, I couldn't understand anything else. His wife, squad leader Madhumita, she was also in the car. The dash cam of the vehicle, it captured this attack. Now, Wing Commander Bose shared this video on his social media platform detailing the attack when the biker began tailing them, then started verbally abusing them in Kannada. India Today has accessed the image of the attacker, who is alleged to have assaulted the Indian Air Force officer who was on his way to the airport. His father was to be hospitalized, and that is why he'd taken leave and was going to Bengal. Listen into the officer, I'll get you more on that story.
People came surprisingly and started abusing us, that we are doing wrong things. That person, he took his stone out, started trying to hit my car. I trying to stop, he hit me on my head again. Here you can see the blood and see my condition. The reality of main heartland Karnataka. I couldn't believe it. God help us. God gave me the power not to retaliate. Tomorrow, if law and order doesn't help me, I will retaliate. And then these people will have it. Please help me.
The shocking thing is that the local people, the Kannada people there, everybody was watching. There were aged people who were only telling the person who had done the crime that he was wrong, get away from here. But the other locals, they were supporting him, they were holding my hand. That guy even bit me in my finger. He bit me in my finger. It's atrocious. If I had the capacity, I could have done anything to him. I was larger in size, larger in power. But he came, shocking because he came prepared. He had a keys in his hand, wearing a helmet, and he wanted to aggravate the situation. And God knows what would have happened if my wife was there alone. I'm very worried now that my wife and my kid are there alone. This happened in the heart of the city, in DRDO area.
And news just coming in, the Bengaluru police have arrested the biker who assaulted the Indian Air Force couple, both officers in the Indian Air Force. The police arrested the attacker after a complaint was lodged with them. The officer had also given the number of the motorcycle to the police, and all of this was captured on the dash cam of his vehicle. I want to quickly cut across to India Today's Sagairaj, who joins us for more on the story. Sagairaj, do we have details about who the attacker is and why he attacked that Indian Air Force officer and his wife?
What we get to learn through police process, it was a case of road rage which went wrong with both of them, both accused as well as the victim wing commander in this particular case. And the accused have abused wing commander and his wife, stating that they are not giving space, and they have a DRDO sticker on their car, which has escalated. And according to the victim, he has assaulted the wing commander, and he has uploaded the video on social media, and subsequently his wife have approached Bayapanalli police station here in Bengaluru and registered a complaint and FIR at Bayapanalli police station. Police was quick enough to act because the police had the vehicle number and they traced him and arrested him immediately. As we speak now, he's under custody and the police are interrogating further on the same.
Keep tracking that story, Sagai Raj. For the moment, many thanks for joining me. I now want to shift focus to the other big story we're tracking here on 5 Live. And leader of opposition in Lok Sabha, senior Congress leader Rahul Gandhi, is in the eye of a storm over a statement that he made in Boston in the United States of America. Rahul Gandhi's latest remarks overseas have reignited a fierce battle with the BJP. And this time, it's on the issue of alleged voter fraud in Maharashtra elections. While Rahul Gandhi accused the Election Commission of India of being compromised and not impartial, the BJP has targeted him, saying he goes abroad each time and speaks ill of the country and our democracy. We get you more in this report.
Thousands of miles away from home, Rahul Gandhi has sparked a political firestorm on elections. Speaking at the Brown University in Boston on Sunday, he accused the Election Commission of India of voter fraud during the 2024 Maharashtra Assembly elections.
More people voted in the Maharashtra Assembly elections than there are adults in Maharashtra. This is the fact. They not only refused to give us the videography, they changed the law so that now you're not allowed to ask for the videography. So it's very clear to us that the Election Commission is compromised. It's very clear that there is something very wrong with the system.
The BJP hit back, accusing Rahul Gandhi of defaming the country on foreign soil and branding him a traitor.
अपने देश के संविधान ने जो संस्थाएं तैयार की है उनके प्रति इस प्रकार से झूठ बोलने का प्रयास करते हैं, झूठ फैलाने का प्रयास करते हैं। राहुल गांधी जिस प्रकार का बर्ताव कर रहे हैं, उनके चरित्र पर एक सवालिया निशान इसके कारण खड़ा हुआ है।
ये 988 करोड़ का बोगस डोनेशन आखिरकार माँ बेटे के जेब में गया है, तो माँ बेटे को लगता है कि वो बच जाएंगे, तो गलत है। They are not going to be excused and they are not going to be saved. The law is going to take over and catch them.
The BJP-led Mahayuti coalition won a landslide in Maharashtra, getting 235 out of 288 seats in the 2024 assembly polls, held just months after a poor showing in the Lok Sabha elections. The Congress, stunned by the scale of the defeat, has refused to accept the results. Bureau Report, India Today.
And just days after his Easter address, the Vatican announced that Pope Francis has passed away. Pope Francis was the first pope from Latin America, bringing a unique perspective to his leadership of the global church for Catholics. On Sunday, he called for freedom of thought. He called for tolerance in his Easter address. The Vatican has announced 9 days of mourning. In his Easter message, Pope Francis called for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. He urged the Palestinian group Hamas to release all the remaining hostages and condemned what he described as worrisome was the rise of anti-Semitism around the world. Condoling the death of Pope Francis, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that the Catholic priest's affection for the people of India will always be cherished. And India Today brings you this exclusive report from Vatican City by Barbara Celis, who spoke to people following the sad passing away of Pope Francis.
Hi, good morning. This is Barbara Celis live from Rome. We are, as you can see, at the Vatican City. We are in St. Peter's Square. This is the center, the heart of the Vatican. Today, everybody in Rome is coming to this square because the Pope this morning at 7:35 a.m. Rome time passed away. It's actually it's been a surprise for everybody. He had spent the past 2 months at the hospital, but he left just at in the very last days of March. Everybody thought he was recovering, and in fact, yesterday he was here for the Mass of Easter Sunday, the most important Mass for Catholics. He was here to give everybody the Urbi et Orbi, the benediction that is given by the Pope traditionally every Easter Sunday. So as you can see, people from all over the world are coming here today, and it won't be the only day, obviously, because when a pope dies, it triggers a long process to have a new pope re-elected. So in the coming days, you will be seeing how cardinals and bishops from all over the world will be coming to Rome to gather first for the funerals, which actually will last for 9 days, and then for the conclave, which is the process in which all the senior people in the Catholic Church gets together and decides who is going to be the next head of state of the Vatican, so the next pope. We will be live from Rome in the next few days as well. Thank you.
So I was here yesterday for Mass, and I was about 10 feet from Pope Francis about 24 hours ago. So I just felt moved when I woke up today and saw the news to come over here and just kind of be here for a little while.
We happened to be in the center of the square, and he came by in the Pope Mobile after the Mass. So we were about 5 to 10 feet away from him as he passed by.
He looked well or he looked weak?
Hard to say. He was sitting there and waving, but obviously he didn't look as vibrant and active as he usually does.